Welcome into Power Plays presented by Bet365. I'm Tim Kalinowski, joined by Michael Leboff and Nick Martin. The three of us make up Line Change, Action Network's NHL betting podcast. We've been doing tons of podcasts all week throughout these NHL playoffs, and now we give you a little best bets, as many as we can here. We're just going to rip through these games. This Saturday 4-game slate, we got 3 game 4s and 1 game 3 out there in Vegas. So, gents, we're going to, forget the draft. I think the best way to do this, we'll just go game by game. Tell me if you got anything, rapid fire. If not, you can just say pass with a little quick note. Leboff, we'll start with you because it's the Carolina Hurricanes versus your New York Islanders. I'm sorry, but let's just get it out of the way. Anything here, my man?
I don't think I'm gonna bet it, but I think that the Islanders are like the right side in terms of the value, just based on where this game closed for game 3, and now where it's sitting at for game 4. It's like 15 cents higher just because Carolina won a pretty tight game 3. The Islanders have played 2 decent games in the series, so yeah, I probably won't bet it. It'll be enough for me just to be sitting there watching it, but it would be Islanders or nothing.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass. I think that moving it to minus 185 looks like enough of an adjustment to keep me off the Canes. And I agree with Mike. You know, you could see that the game could have been closer, but I mean, also, what are the Islanders if they're not going to get goaltending? I know they've switched back to Semyon Varlamov here, but um, I think that this one just looks like something I'm not interested in betting.
Well, I'll give us something as that hot start to the show. I have a lean, or I'm going to play a half unit on the Hurricanes puck line here. I think that the way Leboff, you said, we've all agreed that the Islanders have outplayed Carolina for stretches in this series, and they haven't been able to get the job done. I think that says a lot about these two teams, and Carolina doesn't even have to have their A game to beat this team. And I think there could be some situations here where facing elimination, Wall decides to pull the goalie earlier in the game, which would lead you to some empty net opportunities to cover that puck line, which would also give me a slight lean on the over. I know that's hard to do with this series, the way that these teams play extremely tight, but I think it could be a looser, more open type game, which would lead me again to that puck line and the over. So there you have that. Islanders facing elimination. Another team facing elimination is the Tampa Bay Lightning. This spread, Florida now a favorite at Tampa Bay. Leboff, anything here?
Yeah, it's similar to the first one. Like I have plays in the other 2 games, but this one, um, I wouldn't. I would rather want to play the Panthers in this situation, and if I did, I would play them on the puck line. I think that this one can absolutely get away from Tampa. Florida's really imposed their will. They've been clearly the better team. But I do think like the adjustment is in the number. So if you wanted to play something, I would go with the puck line. I feel like this one, you'll have 2 teams that will be like there's a lot of variance. I think in a game like this with these 2 teams that hate each other, it could get off the rails, and just Florida's been better. So if I wouldn't hate the look of the puck line, but once again, a pass for me.
Yeah, this Lightning team, if you're looking at over or the Lightning, they're gonna have to score on the power play. They've been 2 for 12 this series. That's been their bread and butter. Credit to Florida for being able to shut that down. Nick, you've been on it since the jump on Florida in this series. Anything on game 4 for you?
Yeah, I still think there's enough value with the Panthers at minus 125 for half unit play. I had posted this with Bet365's number specifically opening at minus 115. I still think there's enough value there. For me, the big difference between how I still see value when like comparing this game to the Hurricanes game when both numbers moved is that Florida was again just the better team and got the result. They lagged a little bit coming out of the first intermission, but they held off that onslaught. And then from the rest of the game, they were still getting the better of the overall chances. They were pushing for a while before they finally broke through in the third period. I've been big on the Panthers winning this series leading into it. I love them to cover the series spread. And I just think that the Lightning are more flawed than people want to credit. I think if you took away those 2 cups, it's been the same story all year. They don't have a very good defense core. They're not overly deep. Vasilevsky's been pretty middling for 3 straight playoffs now. So it feels like, even at minus 125, I don't think Florida's advantages over Tampa are accounted for enough. I think they're going to find a way to wrap it up on Saturday. I think we still have a bettable number.
Yeah, and interesting to see if this thing gets out of hand as Tampa maybe wants to take a chunk out of Florida on their way out. I'm pretty much fine just passing on this game, but we have a lot more here because we have the Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. No shortage of narratives and stories here. Leboff, I know that you're taking it all in as we love to consume both media markets here, Boston and Toronto. What do you have here?
Yeah, I really like this game to go to overtime. The way that this series has played out, it feels like the game getting off the rails is unlikely compared to the rest of the games on the slate. We've seen it with games 2 and 3. The overtime bet was in play throughout both contests. It took a game-winning goal with less than 10 minutes in each game to get the regulation win. Some power play issues for Toronto, but they've been good at 5-on-5. So a lot of success on the power play for the Bruins has helped them kind of stay in this series and get a series lead despite being not as good at 5-on-5. I think both teams will improve in their deficient, sectors. I think Toronto's special teams have to regress to the mean a little bit, and I think that Boston will be a little bit better at 5-on-5, particularly going forward. They've been great defensively, so I think with the way that these two teams have played a very tidy defensive game, great goaltending from the Bruins, obviously, and some Samsonov, classic Samsonov goaltending for the Leafs. I just don't think this game gets off the rails all that often. So I think that the overtime look here is well worth the gamble at plus 350, 360 out there.
Yeah, game 3, Toronto Maple Leafs had 5 chances to score on the power play. They were 0 for 5. They're going to need some sort of production there if they want to tie up this series. Nick, I know that you have talked a lot about having the series to be tied after 4 games. I'm sure that's your rooting interest in this game, but also you were on a 3-way tie in the last game, which was pretty darn close. You going back to the well here, my man?
Yeah, I don't mind the 3-way tie at all. It really has been kind of the same story the entire Sheldon Keefe era, which is that the Leafs can't come up with scoring, but they in general hang around and make it 1-goal games one way or the other. Last year, 5 of the Leafs 11 games need an overtime session, and I think this series they've been right there. So I don't mind that look at all. I feel like we are going to see a pretty competitive game. With the series split, I do feel decent that we need Toronto to wrap it up. I don't mind the Leafs here if they get Nylander back. I think they'll continue to be the better team in even strength. They've been the better team in even strength for the last 2 months. They've been the better team in even strength in this series by a marginal amount. But I think the main deciding factor in that and why you can't have too much confidence in Toronto is just the difference in goaltending form. That was the story in game 3. You can point to whatever other factors, but ultimately, I think the biggest swing factor was the Bruins basically got a free goal from the shot on Frederick coming down the wall that absolutely never goes in at the other end of the ice with Swayman. And credit to the Bruins, he's part of the team, but that's also why I just can't quite pull the trigger on the Leafs here, despite the fact that I do think, especially if the power play gets going, which is reasonable, that they are going to own more of the play and play a sharper team game. But I think, again, that's what's got to be scary is like, are they going to clean it up much more than they have? Probably not, really. I think, the Leafs played about as well as they're going to in game 3 and didn't get the results. So I think that all kind of works into why the number's fair and why overtime is a solid bet that Mike has outlined.
Yeah, I'll jump in as well here. I'll go with the overtime or game to go to overtime, 3-way tie, 3 guys, 3 likes on the game to go extra minutes here. This has been, about as close of a series as any of them. And I'll also point out as well, Leboff, this is why you listen to Line Change. You've done a good job outlining the fact that the Bruins, when they seem to win, it's the puck line. It's been 2 games this year where they've been able to cover the 1.5 spread. It would be an alt puck line technically here as they're a dog, but it just, your handicap on it has been pretty good in that when the Bruins win, it's because they are able to kind of run away with it in a sense. And also too, we'll note with the goaltending situation in Boston, if it is Allmark, there could be some movement towards Toronto, just in the sense that I think a lot of people see Allmark as rather Swayman as the superior goalie. But even though they've actually been pretty close, Allmark was fine in that game too. So just be wary of that line movement here as we see what goalie goes. And, that shouldn't totally change your math too much because they've been pretty tight. But we have one more game. The Vegas Golden Knights took 2 games from Dallas in Dallas. And Mike, before I get your opinion on the matter, I just have to let you know that Power Plays is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only or 18 plus in Kentucky and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, and now North Carolina. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. T's and C's and restrictions apply. Last game on this Saturday slate. Leboff, does Dallas have a chance here in Vegas?
Yeah, I'll go one step further. We talked about this a lot on Line Change. I wrote about it for the New York Post with our partnership there. I like the Stars to win the Stanley Cup right now at 25-1, down 2-0 to the Knights. It might sound counterintuitive, but this is maybe your best opportunity to buy on the Dallas Stars that you've got all season. They were 16-1 on opening night. That number would kind of consistently trend down. They were the favorites in the Western Conference, or co-favorites when the playoffs started. And now you're getting them at 25-1 to win the Stanley Cup, which is easily the highest price that they've been in months. So this is one where you're going to need them to avoid the loss on Saturday night, of course. And so that's step one. And then they've got to get their way back into the series and then win it. But if they do that and they're able to hold off this Vegas Golden Knights team, they will be your Western Conference favorites once again in round 2. So now is the opportunity to buy the Stars. I think by default that means that I like them in game 3, but I just would much rather go with the outright and the 25-1 ticket.
Yeah, go big. Levi made a good point too, and you made the tennis analogy in that if they do come back in the series, that means that they are in good form. That means Ottinger must be playing well, and that that would say a lot about a Dallas team to come back. So they're plus 350 right now to come back and win this series. I would like to take my chance with a longer ticket. And I think that's a good way to look at it. You're basically betting a parlay there that the first leg is you come back and win this series. Nick, you've seen it the same way.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the important part to note is that compared to a lot of times when I think once you like price it out the rest of the way, 25-1 or whatever is only fair. I think the thing for me is that it'll be the way the market views the Stars the rest of the way, where they're going to be power rated near the top if they get by what looks like a really, really good Vegas team. I like the Stars in this game. I think the fact that they're minus 105 is plenty of adjustment. They played fine in Vegas last year in their series. They won 1 game there, lost the other 2 in overtime. So as we see with most playoffs, I always make this point that home ice is way overpriced into the betting prices. We're starting to see it in round 1. Road teams are up to 7 and 9, and that's with the higher seeds having played their games. Last year, road teams were 42 and 36. So in general, you don't want to buy into home ice advantage. It gets really overpriced this time of year. Both teams are on the same rest schedule. And with that said, I don't think the Stars were bad enough in the first 2 games that we need to make the Knights a favorite here. I think we will see them able to get right. I still love everything that they've done this year. I think that roster is really well constructed. And their first 2 games, I think, could have obviously gone differently. Offensively, I think they had some chances that they normally would finish. So I don't think they need to make that much of an adjustment to find a way to get a better result here. But I do think we'll see them bring their best game of the series on top of that. So I like the Stars. But at the other end of the spectrum, and part of my belief in why I like Mike's Cup look is I think that Vegas is a full-blown Cup favorite at this point. I think they might reasonably be favored over maybe almost any team. Like, I think at this point, everyone was unsure how to price Vegas heading into the playoffs, given the way they lulled for half the season. Nobody knew what they would look like when they were at full strength. We'd never really seen this roster play together. And now it seems pretty clear that they're just a full-blown, I mean, they were the Cup winner last year. They look like they could arguably be better this year if they get goaltending. So I still kind of want to get in on some Vegas markets because I think if they get out of this series that they should be the favorite out west and maybe versus any team in the East. And for those reasons, I like Jack Eichel to win the Conn Smythe. I think that there's a really good chance he's the guy this year. He was close last year. He's arguably was their best player, but Marchessault just had way too many timely goals that you had to give it to him. But I think that's like less likely this year. I think Eichel has a really good shot at taking it home. So I think you're getting a good number to take it at 22-1. If the Knights get out of this series, they've got to be one of the Cup favorites. So I like getting Eichel. Drives me nuts when people say Vegas doesn't have a true superstar, because Eichel is one of the very best centers in the entire league. And I think if they go on a run this year, he'll continue to be the greatest reason why. So I like the Stars tomorrow, but I also think if you want to try to tap into the other range of outcomes where the Knights get through this series, then you want to get on that Eichel train.
Nick Martin lays out two paths for each team here. I like what you're saying here in terms of Vegas is 6-1 right now to win the Stanley Cup. I'd rather have the longer look with Eichel. Feel like if they are going to win the Stanley Cup, Eichel's going to be a big reason why. We saw last season. And for my pick in this game, I'm going to go with the trend from last season as well. Last year, Vegas at home, there was a goal scored in the first 10 minutes in 8 of their 12 home games. I think it's a little juicy right now as I look at the number. It's -160 for a goal in the first 10 minutes. So I'll go instead to the first period over 1.5, -115. I think that the way Dallas is down 2-0 in the series, they can't really be content to play one of those solid road periods that we tend to talk about. They have to come out strong. They have to come out firing, which I think could open up scoring opportunities on both ends of the ice. So give me the over in the first period there. Gents, that's 4 games. Lieboff, we'll do classic like we do on Line Change in the playoffs here. If you have one pick for Saturday, what's your favorite?
I'll go with the overtime in Boston and Toronto. That's probably my favorite bet on the board for Saturday night.
Nick?
I'm going with the Stars money line.
Okay, and I will go with that first period over in Dallas, Vegas. There you have it. Enjoy your Saturday slate of 4 games. Should be a good one. Hope you guys all enjoy and bet responsibly. Once again, Power Plays is presented by Bet365. We will see you next week on Line Change and again for another edition of Power Plays. Enjoy, everyone.